Good afternoon, everyone. How's everyone doing this fabulous Tuesday, day after Memorial Day? Of course, back to work. Of course, we all love work, right? Okay, so today I have hopefully a good show for you. We're going to talk about the dangers of self-medication. Uh, as you know, here on my talk all things mental health. So we will be talking about this topic, and it's a serious topic. So we will get started. I'm gonna give it about 5 minutes to let if any whoever is coming just to get it started. So just listen to some smooth music and about four. So we have about 4 minutes now. So 4 or 5 we will get started. All right. Thank you. Okay, we're back. We're back. So yes, it's once again your favorite therapist, Lily Duby. Today, as I mentioned earlier, we will start talking about the dangers of some self-medicating. So I hope you get a lot of valuable information from this live. If you have any questions, you can let's see. This is my website. You want to book a free 30-minute consultation just so we can talk about it a little more, or you would like to start services, therapy services, um, just ask the question. I'm here. So let's get started. Um, okay, so what I want to start with first, we're going to go to, let's see what this is. This is from the National Institute on Drug Abuse. The title is Community Drug Alert Bulletin about stress and substance abuse. So this article, it is a little old, 2006, but it's still valuable information, and I will be sharing lots more. So just stay tuned. Okay, so what it says is researchers have long recognized the strong correlation between stress and substance abuse, particularly in and relapse. Although exposure to stress is a common occurrence for many of us, it is also one of the most powerful triggers for relapse to substance abuse in addicted individuals, even after long periods of abstinence. So there was a lot in that one paragraph, so I'll just break it down. Let me see. Okay, so before I go any further, this is the author. This is site information. Just want to get that up there. All right. So basically, what it's saying, stress and substance abuse, even if you were using substances in the past, stress is a big trigger to for relapse. Okay, so that's good to know, right? Because that's another reason why you, especially if you have been, if you one of the individuals that have been clean for long periods of time, and you have a stressful life, right? You want to keep that support system that's going to be around you. I would suggest a therapist, and of course, just enough support system as well, um, just so that you can get through those stressful times and can learn some skills to get through those stressful times as well. So that was a lot of information. Okay, so let's just continue. Excuse me. It says the National Institute on Drug Abuse has developed this community drug alert bulletin to update you on current research about stress and its relationship to substance abuse. Given the recent spat of natural disasters in this country and their tragic human aftermath, our awareness of the effects of stress and increasing vulnerability to substance abuse must be especially keen. Researchers have long recognized the strong correlation between stress and substance abuse, particularly in prompt and relapse. Although exposure to stress is a common occurrence for many of us, and I already read this, I'm just going to read it again. It is also one of the most powerful triggers for relapse to substance abuse in addicted individuals, even after long periods of abstinence. People can experience post traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, a diagnosable psychiatric disorder, and a known risk factor for substance abuse and addiction, following direct or indirect exposure to severe traumatic events, which this pandemic would actually qualify as PTSD for some people. So it says PTSD, following direct or indirect exposure to severe traumatic events such as war, terrorist attacks of September 11, 2001, or natural disasters, like I was just saying, what we are going through at this moment. Um, NIDA, which is NIDA is National Institute on Drug Abuse. Okay, so it says NIDA It's therefore encouraging more studies on the topic of stress and drug abuse and addiction prevalence. We're also focusing more attention on developing science based interventions to help those who are particularly vulnerable better cope with stress. We hope you find this information, so it's just saying, hope find this information useful to as you continue to deal with drug abuse issues in the community, identifying potential substance abuse problems early, and referring patients to professionals with expertise in drug abuse counseling and treatment will be beneficial to all involved. So let me just kind of write this down to you. So it's basically saying when one is dealing with stress, right? Which this is especially going through this pandemic, I know it could probably tend to get a little stressful, right? So it's saying, and then I'm only talking to the individuals who have like maybe uh, were abstinence from drugs, and so that for a period of time, natural disasters such as this pandemic and other things can make you more vulnerable because it's bringing that stress factor. So that's basically what it's saying, and it's basically telling you if you are in that population of someone who used drugs before and have gone a long period of time without using them, make sure you have a solid support system. Make sure you have a therapist. Make sure you say your prayers first of all. Make sure you have people around you that support you, so you can be as stress free as possible. Because and this was like I said, this is an older article, but so I'm pretty sure this is even more prevalent today than it was in this article. Let's see. We all must focus on restoring our emotional well-being, develop healthy ways to manage stress, and avoid turning to drugs or other substances to escape stressful realities of the day. So basically, uh, turning into self-medicating yourself, right? And I'm gonna go into. I'm pretty sure everybody, when you look at the definition, you basically can tell exactly what self-medication is. It's using some type of, and I'm not saying medication like Tylenol or anything like that. I'm saying drugs. So basically, when you're using drugs to escape stressful events or using them to just escape your life, period, that's self-medicating, right? Because you hopefully, I mean not hopefully, but I'm assuming use someone would be using the drugs to numb whatever they're going through, right? So that makes it qualify as self-medicating. Make sense? Okay, so I'm not going to go too much into what stress is. You can look that up on your own, but we pretty much know what stress is. I'm gonna do the stress. Oh, let me share the title. This is written by Nora D. Walco, MD, Director, the National Institute on Drug Abuse. This is not my work. Sharing this for educational purposes and research purposes only. You can see the disclaimer in my YouTube video. I'm just discussing this for the community to make them aware of what's going on. All right, so let's go to stress and substance abuse. And like I said, I'm pretty sure everyone is pretty much familiar what stress is and what it does by now. If not, do a quick Google search. All right, so it says stressful events can profoundly influence the abuse of alcohol or other drugs. Stress is a major contributor to the initiation and continuation of alcohol or other drug abuse, as well as to substance abuse relapse after periods of abstinence. Stress is one of the major factors known to cause relapse to smoking, even after prolonged periods of a smoke free lifestyle. Children exposed to severe stress Children exposed to severe stress may be more vulnerable to drug abuse. A number of clinical and epidemiological studies show a strong association between psychosocial stressors, early in life, such as parental loss, child abuse, but it could be any numerous stressors in a child's life, right? And an increased risk for depression, anxiety, impulsive behavior, and substance abuse in adulthood. So now y'all starting to see how stress can become a serious thing, right? Let's see. Just carry on. Stress, and vulnerable populations. Stressful experiences vulnerability of an individual to relapse to drug use even after prolonged abstinence. Individuals who have achieved abstinence from drugs must continue to sustain their abstinence by avoiding environment triggers, recognizing their psychosocial and emotional triggers, and developing health behaviors to handle life stresses. And before we go on, I'm just going to put in a quick self plug. We can help you do that over here at the Valier Consulting Services. It's right here on the bottom, the Valier Consulting Services.com. To offer a free 30-minute consultation. We can talk about your triggers. We can explore all of those things. Come up with some healthy coping skills. Just come up with like a treatment plan that you will follow, so that you will have those healthy skills instead of resorting to self-medicating or unhealthy coping skills. All right, so now that I'm done with mine, let me go back. So a number of relapse prevention approaches have been developed to help clinicians address relapse. Treatment techniques that foster coping skills, problem-solving skills, and social support play a role in successful treatment. Physicians should be aware of which medications their patients are taking. Some people may need medications for stress-related symptoms or for treatment of depression and anxiety. And this is PTSD. Um, PTSD is basically an anxiety disorder, and it develops after exposure to a terrifying event or ordeal in which grave physical harm occurred or was threatened. So just keep that in mind and just run through your mind. Have you experienced something like that, which a lot of people have? So there you go. So it's not just for you know individuals that have been in the line of duty. This happens to everyday citizens as well. So it's right here. It's not limited to battlefield soldiers. PTS can result from tragic incidents in which people become witnesses, victims, or survivors of violent personal attacks, natural or human caused disasters, or accidents. It can occur at any age. Some of the symptoms include just seeing the trauma over and over, just replacing your mind, emotionally numb, not being able to feel sad, happy, just emotionally numb, avoiding the people, the places, or trying to avoid the thoughts that are associated with the event, and hyperarousal, which may involve sleeping difficulties, exaggerated startle response. When someone you might be on a computer, someone walks up behind you, you gotta jump. That's called the exaggerated startle response. And I mean a nice big jump. Uh, and hypervigilance. So it says it's not uncommon for people to experience some or all of these symptoms after exposure to a traumatic event. However, if the symptoms persist beyond 1 month and are associated with impaired functioning, then PTSD may be diagnosed. And when we say impaired functioning, we mean that you're having trouble if you're still in school, so you're having troubles at school. This trauma is playing in your mind at school, or it's starting to interrupt your schoolwork, or you're at work, the same thing is happening, or at home. That's impaired functioning. It's interrupting your daily living activities. So if that is happening and it's been going on for over a month, you might want to go get that checked out. So it says PTSD and substance abuse. Emerging research has documented a strong association between PTSD and substance abuse. In some cases, sus- substance use begins after the exposure to trauma and the development of PTSD, thus making PTSD a risk factor for drug abuse. Early, early intervention to help children and adolescents who have suffered trauma from violence or disaster is critical. Children who witness or are exposed to a traumatic event and are clinically diagnosed with PTSD have a greater likelihood for developing later drug and or alcohol use disorder. So if you know your child has been through some type of traumatic event, please try to get them some type of assistance. If it's therapy, or they need assistance. They're gonna need some type of assistance because, as you can see, the PTSD is no joke. It says among individuals with substance use disorders, 30 to 60. So let's read that again. 30 to 60% meet the criteria for comorbid PTSD. So that's like, if not half, it's a little. It's from almost half to over half. So that's a huge amount. What would you say? Um, Patients with substance use disorders tend to suffer from more severe PTSD symptoms than do PTSD patients without substance use disorders. Okay, so now they're just gonna go into what can be used for. It says helping those who suffer from PTSD and drug abuse. Okay, so before I just sum this piece of literature up, I just want to yeah, I'm going to sum this up and then we'll go from there. So basically, what this literature is saying that when someone is experiencing stress, right? PTSD, and it makes it it can. I gotta be careful here. It is it can lead to drug usage. It's more common. Drug usage is more common among those with PTSD and stress factors. Because as we read here, among individuals with substance use disorder, 30 to 60% meet the criteria for comorbid PTSD. So that means if your child is having PTSD symptoms, I read them earlier, and you can also Google it. Please get them assistance as soon as possible. Or if you're going through, you are experiencing these symptoms, because it's just not children; it's adults as well. Especially like literally this pandemic, it could be considered um, it could bring on PTSD because lots of people have lost loved ones, lost all type of things, businesses, jobs, just livelihood. It could definitely bring on PTSD. So they're saying if you have PTSD and substance abuse could possibly go hand in hand. That's why you want to make sure have, like I mentioned earlier, make sure you have that tight support system and make sure you have your therapist. Um, so you're always working on your healthy, learning healthy coping strategies. Okay, I know that was a lot. So it says helping those who suffer from PTSD and drug abuse. And I just have to be careful because I don't want to put out no wrong information. So healthcare professionals must be alert to the fact that PTSD frequently occurs with depression, other anxiety disorders, and alcohol and other substance abuse. Abuse. Patients who are experiencing the symptoms of PTSD need support from physicians and healthcare providers to develop coping skills and reduce substance abuse risk. The likelihood of treatment success increases when these concurrent disorders are appropriately identified and treated. So basically, if you, I just read the symptoms of PTSD, and that now they're including also the depression, anxiety. So if you think that you may have symptoms, make sure you have a strong support system. Okay, make sure, um, even if you're not going to see a therapist, make sure you're talking to your pastor, your praying. It's something that's going to help you stay strong during stressful times. For substance abuse, there are effective medications and behavioral therapies. For symptoms of PTSD, some anti anxiety and antidepressant medications may be useful. Several behavior treatments can help individuals who suffer from PTSD. Improvements have been shown with some form of group therapy and with cognitive behavioral therapy, especially when it includes an exposure component for trauma victims. So, if you have been watching my content, you would have seen the video what I did about cognitive behavior therapy. You can always go back and watch it. It's on my YouTube channel. Your favorite therapist, Lily underscore Dewey. Um, so it says, and that is also the PTSD treatment that we offer at our practice. It does offer that exposure component, and it is specific to PTSD. So it would be a PTSD protocol, and I'll go more into that in another live. So it says exposure therapy allows patients to gradually and repeatedly re-experience the frightening events under controlled conditions to help them work through the trauma. Exposure therapy is thought to be one of the most effective ways to manage PTSD when it is conducted by a trained therapist. I got you. I got you. Um, are not widely used for comorbid PTSD and substance abuse. Several studies suggest that exposure therapy may be helpful for individuals with PTSD and comorbid cocaine addiction. Oh, that's okay. Seeking safety is another example of a cognitive-based behavior treatment tested mainly among women with comorbid PTSD and drug abuse. It is currently being evaluated among different populations for its efficacy. And then we have treatment of patients with comorbid PTSD and addictions will vary. And for some patients, successful treatment may require initial inpatient hospitalization, and that's just to get them stable. So once you're stable, you can come out and then start your, outpatient treatment such as therapy and maybe going to groups and such, whatever your treatment plan includes. Finally, support from family and friends can play an important role in recovery from both disorders. Okay, so that was that was that information. Let's keep going. Okay, so I always have to set up what I'm going to do. So I just gave you this information about um So I just gave you this information about, stress and PTSD and the correlation with um, with substance abuse. So you can go if you're coming in late, you can go back and watch the whole thing. I think it's pretty informative. So now that we have that out the way, I think this is where we're going next. Okay, yes. So let's keep going. Let me share my screen. If I can get back. All right. So let me see. Let's see. All right. Let me see. I need to stop sharing this. Okay. Let me stop sharing that. Okay. Now I got it. All right. Share screen. All right. Let me share my screen. We're gonna go to this piece of nice literature. Make sure it's showing over here. Okay, so what does this say? So this is from helpguide.org. Let's see, do we see the author? This is not my writing. I'm just sharing for educational and research purposes only. All right. So this is from Help Guide. The title reads Self-Medicating Depression, Anxiety, and Stress. Drinking or using drugs to change your mood, face your fears, or deal with painful emotions. There are healthier ways to self-medication to cope with problems and improve how you feel. So I know first I didn't start with this because I just wanted to set the atmosphere to where we were going. I hope I did a good job at that. But we're gonna get into the actual definition, per helpguide.org of what self-medicating is. So it says, in this time of great anxiety and distress, many of us are turning to substances to try to change the way we feel. You might use food to give your mood a boost or alleviate boredom. You might smoke a joint to help you relax, or have a drink or two before going out to settle your nerves and ease any social anxiety. Or perhaps you turn to Xanax or Valium to help you sleep, ADHD medications to keep you focused during the day, or prescription painkillers to numb any grief or stress you're experiencing at the moment. And that's a question mark. When you use alcohol or drugs in this way to manage symptoms of a mental health issue, it's known as self-medicating. Okay, so let me just go back a little. So it says in this, I'm just gonna read that again because that is a big point of what we're talking about today. It is self-medicating. In these times of great anxiety and distress, many of us are turning to substances to try to change the way we feel. You might use food to give your mood a boost or alleviate boredom. You might smoke a joint to help you relax. I have a drink or two before going out to settle your nerves and ease any social anxiety. Or perhaps you turn to Xanax or Valium to help you sleep. ADHD medications to keep you focused on the day, or prescription painkillers to numb any grief or stress you're experiencing at the moment. When you use alcohol or drugs in this way to manage symptoms of a mental health issue, it's known as self-medicating. Yeah, I'm going to eat a cookie, so I hope you can't hear me. I'm kind of hungry here. But when you use alcohol or drugs in this way to manage symptoms of a mental health issue, it's known as self-medicating. You may be aware that you have a mental health problem, but don't know any healthier way to cope, or your condition could be undiagnosed, and you simply use alcohol or drugs to cope with a specific symptom or situation. During the pandemic and resulting economic difficulties, for example, many of us started self medicating stress, worry, and depression as our lives changed so much. While self medicating may offer some relief in the short time, over time it only exacerbates your problems. Whether you turn to alcohol, illegal drugs, or prescription medications, or even food or cigarettes, regular self medication can lead to addiction, a worsening of your mood order. So basically, what you're trying to treat, you're going to make it worse, and increase health problems as well. It can also damage your relationships at home, work, and school. Guess what? You're not powerless. By better understanding the reason why and when you self medicate, you can find healthier and more effective ways of coping with your problems and improving your overall mood and well being. Okay, we're going to get into some reasons. It says, why do people self medicate? We all feel down, worried, and out of balance from time to time in response to life struggles and setbacks. But when feelings of hopelessness, fear, anger, sadness, or overwhelming stress start to interfere with how you function in daily life, it can be a sign that you need help for an underlying condition. Instead of seeking treatment, though, it can be tempting to try to cope on your own in the simplest way possible by reaching for a drink or popping a pill. Okay, so it says, in these times of widespread financial and social turmoil, many of us have tried to self medicate our angst and uncertainty as the world seems to lurch from one crisis to another. Other people Other people turn to substances to cope with an unpleasant memory or feeling stemming from the past, such as an unresolved traumatic incident. See, that's the reason why I read the first article first. So they're saying an unresolved traumatic incident, otherwise PTSD, right? So that's a lot of reasons, people turn to substances. Others use alcohol or drugs to face situations that frighten them or to stay focused on tasks throughout the day. Just as the reason for seeking comfort in drugs or alcohol vary according to the individual, so too can the method of self-medication. Okay, so here are some forms of self-medication. So we have the alcohol. We have the legal alcohol, which you can go in the store and buy anywhere. This tends to be the most common method of self-medication, as well as the most commonly abused substance, since it's so widely available. As I just mentioned, you can go anywhere and get alcohol. It's kind of hard to get away from it. Um, you go to your corner store; it's right there. It may be used to self-medicate stress as well as depression and anxiety, even though beer, wine, and liquor are all depressive and will therefore only make symptoms worse. So, did you hear that? So, most people who are self-medicating turn to alcohol to make themselves feel better, but the irony is it's a downer, so it's not gonna make them feel better. It's gonna make them feel worse because alcohol is a depressant. Keep that in mind. So you want to feel depressed afterwards? Drink you some alcohol. Um, so we have the alcohol. Now let's go to these prescription drugs, and I'm gonna get more into the well, not the prescription drugs, more so the pills. I have something very important to share on that later in this live. Prescription drugs, including opiate painkillers, ADHD medication, and anti-anxiety medication, are also widely available. Their uses can range from numbing pain or relaxation to increasing focus and energy. And then we have the recreational drugs such as marijuana, cannabis, or stimulants like cocaine and amphetamine are used to manage uncomfortable emotions, situations, and memories. And it says their use can lead to drug abuse and addiction. Then we have food can be used by emotional eaters to self-medicate unpleasant feelings and deal with stress, anxiety, or depression. Since most people crave foods high in sugar, calories, and unhealthy fat, emotional eating can play havoc with your waistline as well as your mood. Keep that in mind. Or just come see me for this 30-minute free consultation so we can see what's going on and we can come up with some healthy coping skills in this stressful environment of ours. Um, so then you have nicotine. Nicotine contained in cigarettes and other tobacco products help some people focus, although in the long run tends to make symptoms of ADHD worse and can make it harder to quit smoking. So here are some signs. So listen carefully. I have gave some information now, right? I have shared some information on self-medicating. So here are some signs. So listen carefully. This is going to be the signs that you're self-medicating. So if you were thinking maybe I am, maybe I'm not quite sure. Here are some signs that you could be. It says it's not always easy to identify when you're self-medicating. After all, drinking alcohol is a socially acceptable part of many cultures. And treating some of my clients, I have heard that more than once that different cultures look at alcohol in different ways. So it says it's a social acceptable part of many cultures. Prescription medications can be found in most bathroom cabinets, and even recreational drugs such as marijuana are non legal or easy to obtain in a lot of places. To understand if you're self medicating, it's necessary to examine your motives for drinking or taking drugs, as well as the impact it's having on your life. For example, are you popping a pain pill because your back is hurting or because you had a stressful day at work and you want to change how you feel? Two totally different things, right? Are you having a drink to be sociable with friends or complement a meal? Or are you trying to improve your mood or feel less anxious? Those are all great questions to ask yourself. Okay, so it says signs that you may be self medicating. You turn to 1 second. I'm getting a phone call. Let me make sure it's not emergency. Okay, so sorry about that. I was getting a phone call. Let me see. Let me go back. Let's see. It says you turn to alcohol or drugs when you're feeling anxious. Let me just make sure my mic is on because I do not want to make. I did that the other day. Give me one more second. Okay, I'm so sorry about that. I keep getting a phone call thinking it's an emergency. All right, so signs are you turn to alcohol or drugs when you feel anxious, stressed, or depressed. Many of us have used substances to cope with occasional bad moods, such as the loss of of a job or the breakup of a relationship. But if you're regularly drinking or using drugs to cope with stress, relieve boredom, improve how you feel, or to still yourself or social engagement, for example, then there's a strong possibility you're self-medicating. Drugs and alcohol make you feel even worse. So it says drug and alcohol tend to be temporary fixes. Once the numbing effects have worn off, you're likely to feel even worse. Self-medicating can impact how well you sleep, deplete your energy levels, and lower your immune system. making you more susceptible to illnesses. Your mood and emotional well being will also suffer as you get trapped in a downward spiral of worsening mood and increased substance use. It takes more and more medicating to gain relief. But once it took just one or two drinks to ease your anxiety or the stress at the end of the day, now it takes three, four, or even more. Having an increased tolerance means that you need more alcohol or drugs to experience the same effects. As you continue to self medicate, your tolerance will continue to increase, as will the problems caused by your increasing substance use. You can only break the cycle by finding healthier ways to deal with your problems. Your problems are multiplying. You started drinking to cope with stress, for example, but now you got health, relationship, and financial problems to cope with as well. And the stress is even worse. The more you self medicate, the more problems it creates in your life. All right? Got it? Uh, you worry when you don't have access to drugs or alcohol. Do you worry how you'll cope with a social situation where alcohol won't be available? Do you start to get anxious when your prescription runs out? Do you get restless waiting for payday so you can afford to restock the drinks cabinet or call your dealer? The more comfortable you get at the thought of being separated from your substance of choice, the more likely it is that you're self medicating. So your friends and family are worried about your substance use, I'm sorry. People who care about you express their concern that you seem to be drinking more than usual, or perhaps they noted the change in your personality, behavior, or social life. Substance abuse can affect those around you just as much as it affects you. It's easy to dismiss others' concerns or pretend that everything's okay. But it takes great strength to listen to your loved ones' fear and recognize when your substance use has become a problem. Okay, so I do have a client I have to see at 5, getting close. So I'm just going to go over the dangers of self-medication. So this will, as this looks, as it appears, it will be a part two on this. So I'll bring the second half of what, of the information tomorrow. So we're just going to go over the dangers now, and then we'll go over the second half of the information now. And then also, we'll also share some healthy coping strategies so that you will have them and you can start using them to replace and to replace unhealthy, coping strategies such as drug use. I mean, well, we're talking about self-medication right now at the time. And also, like I did mention, if you want a free 30-minute consultation, you see my website at the bottom of the screen, so you can always reach out to me, even if you just have a question, whatever it is. That is my website. To That's a business website. All right, so it says dangers of self-medication. Trying to self-medicate a mental health issue can create a myriad of problems beyond the risk of becoming addicted to your substance of choice. So not only will you become addicted to the substance, it would also make some worse. It might interact with your prescription medications. That's a big one. It might trigger new health problems. So if you're already at risk for mental health disorder, if you start drinking or heavily using drugs, it could lead to a development of new problems. And beyond that, and beyond what started the self medication in the first place. So now you got a whole nother list of problems, other than why you were the problems you were trying to relieve by self medicating in the first place. All right, if that makes sense. For example, opioid and alcohol use has been linked with triggering depression, and marijuana and meth that were used with psychosis. Delay or prevent you from seeking help. When you're on a course of self medicating, it can be hard to change direction and seek healthier, more effective methods of dealing with your problems. Once you recognize how your substance use is only adding to your problems rather than solving them, though, you can move on to tackling these issues once and for all. All right, so let me stop sharing this. All right. So, what did y'all think about part one? Like I said, this will be a part two. We will talk. I thought I had my notes. We will talk more about this in the next slide. I'm just scratching the surface. This is a hot topic right now. Self-medicating, especially with the fentanyl, and I'm going to talk more about the fentanyl tomorrow as well. Share some information on that deadly drug. Um, but today I'm going to end. So I hope you enjoyed the content. I hope, even though I'm still in my audience, once we get some people here, we'll be able to, ask some questions and go back and forth and actually have a dialogue. But until then, just bring the information and we'll just go from there. So thank you all for coming. Once again, my name is your favorite therapist, Lily Doobie. You can look me up on YouTube. You should see this on YouTube.